morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're listening in the world to this podcast today. My name's Paul Webb. I am the founder of B2B Energy, and you are listening to Energy Speaks Back. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to episode 13 of Energy Speaks Back. Weekly, I present to you experts from around the world, and today it's South Africa. Our subject today will be experience and collaboration. Our objectives are for energy experts to gain a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today to deliver savings that impact on our world. Today, I'm joined by an energy expert from South Africa. He has experience of providing training across the world and has trained and instructed with the United Nations. His work leads around compressors, pumps, and fans. So, without any further ado, I give you Barry Platt. So, good afternoon, Barry. And how is South Africa today?
I think it's a lot warmer than you are in the UK.
Well, considering I've got no heating in my house today, it is probably a very much warmer than I am. So, Barry, it's nice to meet you. First time we spoke, and I know you're based in South Africa. Again, you're one of my followers on LinkedIn, and you're an experienced energy manager, as I know, because we've both got grey hair. And we've been in this, been around the block quite a few times. So Barry, please, for the audience, tell us about your background.
Well, Paul, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I've got a passion for energy. One of the things I did in my final year at university was actually to design a wind turbine. It's never been built. My design was never built, but be that as it may. I've always had a passion for energy and energy efficiency. So 14, 15 years ago, I got started in the not energy management, really. In those days, it was more assistance with reducing energy consumption and identifying high energy users, because one of the things in South Africa that we've had is we've had extremely cheap energy for many years. And then all of a sudden it was going up by 10, 20% per year, because the energy supplier that we have was never serviced and never maintained. So it started failing. So the cost of electricity went up, and it became, instead of just a bill that you paid every month, it became a major expense. So companies started with doing assessments on houses, did small commercials, big commercials, up to industrial. Then I started learning a lot more, teaching myself, and then going to international experts for learning on specific energy systems. I focused primarily on fan systems and pump systems and energy management. And I qualified in all of those, and for the last couple of years I've been teaching. So I've had, as you say, been around the block a few times, kicked the block under the bed eventually, and then so at the moment I'm basically trying to instill the knowledge that I've gained over the last 15 years, and train up the younger guys who are coming through now, who don't have the long years of experience, but they're very keen, and they see things from a new point of view, and they're also a lot more computer literate than I am. So they, together with my experience and their fast skills that they have now, it's a good team.
Where did you go to university? Was that in South Africa?
Yes, in South Africa, in Durban. It was, in those days, it was called Natal. It's now called KwaZulu-Natal. So it's a different kind of place and a different era. I think the whole country is in a different era than it was in those days.
Yeah. And you talked about one of the drivers in South Africa is the cost of energy. Is there any sort of view on emissions and carbon regarding the management of energy now, or is it just purely cost?
Well, it depends who you're talking to, Paul. If you're talking to energy people, the focus is more on emissions and carbon footprints and things like that. And we've actually, in the last year, carbon credits have started coming in South Africa, which is quite new. But if you're talking to a business, the business wants the bottom line. You know, they're looking for money savings. So I almost try and sneak in the carbon savings in a business presentation. And also one of the things that I find that businesses really relate to well is that if they are perceived as being going green in terms of saving energy, saving water, saving waste, being more sustainable, it improves their marketability as a company. And so I try my best to try and drive that side of it as well. While I'm saving them energy, I try and help them understand the advertising potential for become. In fact, one of my big clients is a winemaker. I was a winemaker. I'm finished working for them now, and they actually have benefited selling their wine into the international market primarily because they could advertise the fact that they had reduced their they've gone more sustainable. They have reduced the energy, they reduced their carbon footprint, they reduced their water usage. They did all of that, and that benefited them by being able to get into markets that they previously were not allowed to be in because they weren't doing all of those things. So the world is kind of forcing people to do things, even though it's not always necessarily money saving, but generally it is. You know, if you're saving on emissions and carbon footprinting and things like that, you can guarantee you'll be saving money somewhere.
Exactly. What type of organisations have you been focusing on?
Well, the way the business went, I mean, 15 years ago there was no energy business. You know, so it's kind of I've grown up with the energy business as it's sort of morphed into what it is today, where there's quite a few energy managers around, all with different skills. I mean, there's guys who are doing energy management now who are accounting background and people who are statisticians and things like that who are coming into the business. But there's a lot of engineers like me. But yeah, it's it's a very fast moving business. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fly-by-nights coming into it as well now. So-called experts who believe they, you know, after a year or two, they know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I am.
I've seen that in the UK as well, where people have decided to change their jobs into energy because it's an exciting industry. It has actually always been an exciting industry to work in, and in some cases areas where you can make significant amounts of money. But by doing it right and continuously, you know. And we are seeing different grades coming in. That's one of the reasons why I personally want to try and provide training to make people experts in this industry. Yeah.
Well, to answer that question, at the moment, my primary clients are big industrial. Right. Those are I work in the energy saving field in that side, and on my renewable side, I design solar systems for whoever. But they're mostly big systems. They're for agricultural, commercial, industrial clients. So the interesting thing with getting into the renewable side of the business was that it gave me the opportunity to reduce energy consumption before we added new energy sources. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people tend to miss out on. They jump on the bandwagon of going solar, producing their own energy, but they miss out on the huge savings that could be made before they even start, with the result that they could buy a much smaller solar plant. You know?
Yeah. That's something I like to focus on. We spoke about this earlier about energy management being that journey, and I've had organisations wanting to install CHPs from day one, and that's where the energy then gets hidden. If you start hiding it under different generation, you're just spending all that money on the technology to deliver poorly managed energy in the first place.
Yeah, it's a kind of like treating the symptoms instead of the cause, really.
Love it.
So,
I like that saying. I
yeah.
might have to use it. I might have to steal that saying
Yeah.
on one of my posts. But you're totally right. It's when you size things, and things need to be sized correctly. Otherwise, the return on investment isn't going to be met.
Yeah.
And then,
No, exactly.
and then you go in and start doing energy management in the other areas, and then you start having oversized systems, and you don't get paid enough money from the suppliers nowadays if you're going to export. There's no point exporting because it's a waste of money.
Well, that's kind of a new industry for us in South Africa because we've only got one source. We've got one major utility. There is no other. You can't buy from multiple utilities, but that's changing slowly. But effectively, the grid belongs to that same company. So feeding back into the grid has always been blocked by them because they obviously, they want to sell as much as they can. They don't want other people supplying, so they've made it quite difficult. But in the last month, in fact, I mean, we've got a lot of farming customers who want to install solar, but because farming is seasonal and they've got months in the year where they don't use any energy on their pumps at all, on their irrigation, the solar never worked for them. But in the last month, the utility has changed their rules because we're running out of energy. We're running short. We've got rolling blackouts and things are happening. They've changed the rules now to allow feeding back into the grid, where you can effectively bank the extra energy you make, or you can use net metering. There's a few options that you can do. So it is changing here, but it's not like in the UK, for instance, you can buy from multiple suppliers, and you can't do that.
So is there multiple into the marketplace eventually? No. There's not at all.
No, it's just one utility.
Right.
So you either buy from them or you make it yourself.
Right.
But the problem is in the area that I'm in at the moment, where I live in the Eastern Cape, we can feed back into the grid at parity, but you can't go less than zero effectively. So you can bring your bill down to zero, but you can't go less than that. And then when you're doing that, they charge significant service fees. So you have to do a few calculations to check whether it's actually worthwhile changing to a feeding in tariff or not, because you might find that the service fees outweigh the benefits of feeding back into the grid.
Right. So you mentioned offline that you did a lot of training around different countries. Can you tell us about your experience with that?
Well, the United Nations have got a thing called UNIDO, which is United Nations Industrial Development Organization. You might actually pick them up on LinkedIn. They've just started a new thing called the Industrial Accelerator, which is has some very interesting stuff going on. But back in 2008, I think it was, UNIDO came to South Africa as an emerging market type of country and brought in to South Africa the best international experts in various fields. So we had the world experts in steam systems, compressed air systems, fan systems, pump systems, energy management, ISO standards. We got all the best international experts into South Africa to train South Africans. And we were actually the first country in the world to follow this program. It's now been rolled out to, I think, 123 countries in the world. And the benefit for us was that we were trained by the international experts to become trainers. So for myself, I focused on fan systems and pump systems. And then being now a qualified international trainer in those two disciplines, I was then sent by the United Nations guys to some different countries to go and train their trainers. So I went to Ukraine and we trained up guys there as experts in fan system optimization. I went to Colombia in South America to train them in pump system optimization, train up some experts there as well. I went to Tunisia, I think the year before last year to do some training there in fans and pump systems. So it's the experts that we train up, having been trained, kind of it goes down. So, for instance, our motor systems expert was a guy from the UK. There were two of them came out, and one of the guys was from the UK. And we keep in touch with those guys, you know, because they're the world like leading experts in their field. And so if I have a motor problem, I can get hold of that guy. You know, I know who to get hold of, and they'll sort me out. Same with the pumps and fans and steam systems. The guy who came out here to do compressed air system expert training, a guy from Canada, is like the leading guy in the world kind of thing. And interesting guy who trained us in fans, one of the trainers is also a guy from the UK, but I mean, I think he's in his 80s now, you know, and he's written many books. But what a brilliant guy, you know. I mean, he couldn't climb up a ladder and go and have a look at a duct in the roof, but you know, he didn't need to anymore. You know, he knew what was there. So it was just a case of us trailing around behind people like this and gathering as much as we could, you know. And now, for me, I go to other places and I now spout the same knowledge he told me. He told me stuff. I tell other people that stuff. So it's the word kind of gets out there, you know, and people learn from that.
I think that does really work. You know, the knowledge that we can disseminate through industry, you know, through social media, through training. I think it is an important process of getting that knowledge out into the industry. I say this, and I've written this many times. There's not enough experts or individuals out there delivering energy management and savings to actually achieve what we need to achieve. So we've got to share this knowledge. We've got to grow it.
You know, the interesting thing is, Paul, is the guys in South Africa in this industry. I can probably say there are 10 of my colleagues that I kind of keep in touch with, and we share knowledge and things like that. But the other guys, I kind of get all competitive, you know, and they say, "Oh no, I'm going to do this job, not you," and now I'm going to get the money, and it's for me, it's kind of sad that it's guys there are people coming into the industry thinking they're going to make a lot of money. I think maybe because I'm older, I tend to have a different attitude. My attitude is more towards like saving the planet, if possible. You know.
I don't know whether it is an age thing, but I don't have competitors. I've never had competitors. I would pick the phone up and speak to a competitor and share knowledge and collaborate. You know, I think if everyone was to take on board collaboration, I think that would be better. You know, for your, you know, you've got 10 experts. Those other people may not be experts, but they could be experts if you was to all collaborate together.
Yeah. I mean, ideally that's what you would like. You know, I'm doing a project at the moment with a guy, and I said to him, you know, we need to collaborate on this because I know people who are really experts in this particular field that we're looking at. I know enough to ask a good question, but I'm not an expert in some fields. You can't be an expert in every field. And my certificates on the wall here say I'm an expert, but I'm by no means a real expert. I mean, I know what an expert is, and I know I'm not an expert, but I know enough to ask the right questions, and I know enough to know who to collaborate with who does know the answers to those questions. I mean, one of this at the moment is it's a steam boiler system supplying process heating, and we're going to replace it with solar thermal and pyrolysis. So I know guys who understand those systems really well, and we need to collaborate with them.
Yeah. I have another saying, there's enough cake out there for everyone to have a slice.
Yeah.
There's plenty of cake out there. There's thousands and thousands of organizations that need experts to go and help them. make a difference.
Yeah.
And I always say, energy is your third largest expense. It doesn't matter where that building is in the world, that you're going to have that cost,
Yeah.
and you need to manage that cost. And it's easy to manage that cost. And when you've got experts around you to manage that cost, you've got to lean on the experts, because these organizations, they need to focus on, you mentioned wine earlier. Their wine needs to be the best wine in their market. And the reason why it is the best wine, because they know what they're doing. They know how to manage that process. But what they don't know how to manage is the surrounding area, the office blocks, the lighting. And that's where we come into. Focus on your product, and we're focused on the energy management.
I think that the thing a lot of people, it's taken a while, but it's getting there now, is that one of the things you said earlier is that it's a journey. And when you engage with an energy manager or a sustainability expert or somebody who's working with you, you have to realize this is a long-term thing. Like the one company that I'm working with now, I've been working with them for 10 years. Yeah. And, we're slowly getting better and better all the time, using less water, producing less waste, using less electricity. The electricity bill now is less than it was 5 or 6 years ago, even though it's gone up 10% per year. Right. So, over the period of time, when you look at the baseline, which is effectively the kilograms produced per kilowatt hour used, that figure has gone down, trending down for years. It's been trending downwards. So, but it's not a quick fix by any means. It's a journey. And one of the other things you mentioned earlier was that it's about relationship building, and to get around the competitiveness of other people. I find the best way to do it is to build relationships with your clients, and that's the first thing I teach when I teach anything, any energy management or whatever I'm teaching. Probably the first half of the day I'll spend on just relating experiences and discussing how to build relationships with clients, especially engineers. Engineers are very wary. They think you're trying to sell them something. So, but once you build a relationship with those guys in a business, the door's open. You say to them, "Can I have a look at your list of motors in your storeroom? Let's have a look. What is your policy for replacing motors or rewinding them?" They'll tell you that kind of stuff once you've built that trust and relationship. But you can't walk in there and tell them, "I'm going to fix everything for you," because they'll show you the door really quickly.
I always start when I'm doing an energy assessment and I've got that engineer with me, and I tell these stories every time. This guy comes to me, he's probably got spanners and hammers all hanging out his tools out of his pocket. He's got, putty on him where he's been doing some plumbing work. He's running around fixing leaks. He's running around providing power or lighting to people. He's not expecting me to come to site today. He's not expecting me to say that I'm going to be there all day. He's not expecting me to say, "I want you to show me round all day. I want you to escort me." He's not expecting it. And he's not happy that I'm there.
Exactly.
You've got to get him on your side. And the first things that will come out of my vocabulary regarding what I'm doing with him is, "I'm on your side. I'm here to support you regarding your energy management process." Now, he has probably got all the best ideas in that building.
Absolutely.
So I guarantee you. I need him to write the report for me, because no one's listening to him.
But no one listens to him, you see. They won't.
But when I put his words in the report, they're going to listen to him because I'm the expert. And I'll tell him that, and I'll work with him.
Yeah.
I had a guy...
You know what you'll find also, Paul, is that if you don't come from that country, it's like me coming from South Africa, and they don't really know me or anything like that. Immediately they've got a bit of respect. They think, well, this guy's an international expert, so he must know something. Yeah. But it's the same. I mean, they know what I know. It's not rocket science. They know it.
I do have that. Have a little bit of a problem with the people that say Scotland, Wales, or I've got to break those barriers because I'm English going into this area. It doesn't take long,
Yeah.
break those and build the relationships. It doesn't take long.
Oh, but it'd be easier for me,
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
even though I might still. I'm sure I don't sound English enough to. I used to build machinery, and I sold my machinery in Scotland and England and Ireland, and it's like being in a foreign country when you're in Scotland. You don't understand a word the guys in the factory are saying. Same in Ireland. Even in Bristol, I don't understand what those guys were saying. I understood the guys in Liverpool.
I've done work in Newcastle, and I've had to ask them for a translator, because they just speak too fast. But it's funny
Yeah.
how I get into the zone. Eventually, I will get into the zone.
Yeah.
Barry, it's been really great catching up with you, and meeting you today. Is there anything that you could give back as a takeaway to the listeners today? Is there something in your toolkit that you could feed back to everyone today?
Yeah. Well, my toolkit's so full. I wouldn't know which spanner to select. I think for me the most important thing is to build up your technical knowledge so that you have an understanding of the systems that you're looking at. And then once you've done that and you go to the client, build a relationship with that person, build a relationship with that client so they respect you. So they know that you do have that technical knowledge in your back pocket. And that when you go and ask them, how do you don't always relate this one. You go to a factory and you say to the guys, I would like to understand this process. How do you sort these oranges out? You don't go to them and say, but you're using the wrong kind of lights. They're very energy inefficient. You shouldn't be using those. You say to them, let me understand your process, and then let me bring my knowledge in terms of energy management and energy saving to your business and try and help you to do the same process, but better and more efficiently. That's what I'm there for. And that requires time. Sit and have a cup of tea, have a chat, understand their business, understand the difficulties that they have. Do they have a problem with in sort of their I mean, I went to one factory and the phases were wired the wrong way around, so their motors all suddenly went backwards. Things like that. Do they have those kind of problems? Do they have tripping going on? And then we can start looking into things with them. But it's all about understanding the client, understanding their business, building a relationship with them, and then getting them to understand what it is that you do, that you're not telling them how to do their business. You're explaining them how you do your business and how the two can then, how you can collaborate and they can benefit from that. So that's kind of my toolkit. that's my small toolkit. But I think that's the most key thing. The rest is knowledge and experience.
Yeah. Be patient, take your time. It is that journey. And journey one is just building that relationship from day one.
Absolutely. And it's the same everywhere. Everywhere is the same. When I went overseas and I was in Colombia, I couldn't understand Spanish. I started to try and learn a bit of Spanish. Then you sit with the guys and you chat and you talk, and then you start talking about the business and you start talking about the equipment they use. And then it's a bit of Spanglish and English and Spanish, and it becomes fun. You build that relationship, and all of a sudden you've made that breakthrough, and you become a collaborator with them, with their problems. So once you break that barrier, energy management becomes a nice job. It's a really nice job. You know what I said to my wife once when I've been passionate about energy forever since I've been a mechanic. I started fixing cars. I fixed my dad's car when I was about 6, I think. I used to fix it. I had a few pieces left over when I was finished, but I became an engineer because I love mechanical stuff, and I became an energy person because I was passionate about energy. And I said to my wife, I said, I'm just so glad that I was able to get into this business before I died, because this is what I love doing.
That's amazing. I didn't think I'd ever find someone on the same page as me, because I just love the industry. I've been in the industry
Yeah,
for 40 years, I can boast, because, you know, from the day I left school, I worked at a nuclear power station. I've done all the training, and I've seen the energy get produced. I've changed the brushes on the alternator for the
yeah,
turbines. I've changed the oil that go into the transformers. I've even changed the motors that fed the rods into the nuclear reactor. I've taken the fuel. I've taken the rods out. Put the rods in. I've followed the whole process of energy with a nuclear power station from day one. That's my
yeah,
baptism. But to do all that and then start to go at the other end and turning that switch on and off and seeing the impact of that, you know, because by flicking that switch, you've seen all that
yeah,
energy get wasted.
yeah.
You know, all
That's
that work that's gone into it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I've got the technical background, but I find a lot of people in the energy management business now don't have that technical background. But together with, if I've got an accountant, I mean, for me to do a cash flow analysis or work out a flippin' payback period using all these accounting methods, it's a nightmare for me. But I get an accountant person who's also keen on energy management, and I teach them and they teach me.
Yeah.
And next minute, we've got a team which can go into a business and we can speak to everybody. We can speak to the CEO, the accountants, everybody from the mechanic who fixes the things. I can speak to them, and the accounting manager. The other guys can speak to them. So it's a kind of a team. It's a teamwork. And as you say, if you, even from a nuclear power station or any kind of power station from the beginning, you see that's where the energy came from. But where did it go from there? And who's using it, and how much are they paying for it? And are they getting a good deal?
Barry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for reaching out to me, and thank you for being on today's show. It is a real pleasure. It's great to be talking across the world for someone who's on the same page as me as well, which is even better. It's made my afternoon. So thank you.
Me too.
Thank you for your time, and be safe.
Thank you for joining me today on this podcast, and thank you for my special guest. Please go and check out our website on www.b2benergy.co.uk, where you can see many more insights to how you can manage that third largest expense. Thank you. That just leaves me for one more thing to say. Be safe.